I don't know how I feel about that.
Yes, please stay in the light. Yes, please stay in the light.
Well, I'll go ahead and get you all started as people are filtering in. So thank you to everyone who's watching live. This is Skeleton Hour. Welcome. Skeleton Hour is a monthly horror literature webinar series of the Horror Writers Association, and it's produced in collaboration with The Last Bookstore in downtown Los Angeles. So please buy books by our authors tonight from either The Last Bookstore or another local indie bookseller near you. Please, please, please support them. And I just wanted to say this series focuses on a different topic in horror literature every month. Because this is both Black History Month and Women in Horror Month, so honored to have with us authors from the Sycorax's Daughters anthology, and including an editor from the anthology. Very, very excited to hear you all talk about your work tonight. And also, before I get you going, wanted to introduce our sponsor for the night, which is UC Riverside Palm Desert's MFA program in creative writing and writing for the performing arts. And with us tonight, we're very happy to have Todd Goldberg, who is the author of the newly released book, Below Desert, Gangster Stories. And he's also the director of the MFA program, which has been hugely supportive of not only genre fiction writers, but horror writers in particular. So I'd like to ask Todd to say a few words about the program before we get going.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Catherine. So Catherine is a graduate of our MFA program. I actually had to be Catherine's teacher, which was difficult because I'm a bit of a moron, and Catherine is a lot smarter than me. And you never want to have your student teach you. But alas, I'm a man that is willing to be taught. And she taught me more about haunted houses than I'm frankly comfortable with. And that's the kind of MFA program that we run at UCR. If you want to write about horror fiction, you want to write about anything, no one's going to tell you what you can and cannot do. If you're going to a graduate school that tells you what you can or cannot do, like just between us, get the fuck out of there. Those people are not your friends. They're not helping you. So we are so happy to partner with these fantastic horror writers and with this fantastic collection of powerful women tonight who are going to scare the wits out of you. We're so happy to be involved and so happy to play just a little bit of a role here in getting the word out about this fantastic book. So have a wonderful night tonight. Thanks for having us be a part of it, and sit back. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
And I would like to hand things off to our wonderful moderator for the evening, LH Moore. Thank you so much for agreeing to take us on this journey.
Of course. First, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. As Catherine said, I am LH Moore, and I'm your moderator tonight. And this Skeleton Hour is talking all about the groundbreaking 2017 anthology Sycorax's Daughters. It's a Bram Stoker Award finalist, and what's so special about it is that it was the first to feature all Black women, like dark fiction writers and poets. This had never been done before. So, just to give you an idea of how truly special it is. And, I'm just going to start off by having everyone briefly introduce themselves. And, I'll just start, LH Moore. And my short stories have been in numerous anthologies, including this one, and publications such as Fireside, Fire, Apex. And, let's go ahead and start with the inimitable, amazing Grandmaster Linda Addison.
Oh my, hello. You all don't even know what this book has done for me. But anyway, I just want to say hi. I'm Linda Addison. What she said, I have a lot of awards and stuff. And my latest book, The Place of Broken Things, written with Alessandro Manzetti, Weird Poetry, won a Stoker, my 5th. So I just wanted to also just shout out to, in this time, and I may do more, Dr. Kenitra Brooks, because it was her idea And she came to me and asked me to be one of the co-editors along with Dr. Susanna Morris to do this. And it took about a year. And we can talk more about all that later to put it all together. But it's just such a joy and a pleasure. And to be here with some of them, but it's wonderful.
Next, I'll ask Tish to go.
Okay, hi, I'm Tish Jackson. I have a short story in this beautiful collection. It's called Cheaters. And I've had a couple of short stories published. I put out a fiction collection last year and working on a novel right now about my semi-famous hometown. I'm from Vallejo, and we have a lot of famous people, but we also have a lot of evil, nefarious people. So I'm working on that, and I am so honored to be a part of this group and part of this anthology. And I just want to thank Linda for bringing me in, and I'm super happy to be involved.
Thanks, Tish. Next, I'll have Lisa tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi, I'm Elmarie Wood. I'm a psychological horror author. My third novel, The Realm, came out in October, so that's pretty exciting. And I also have a few things coming out this year. So I've been writing for, well, let's not date myself. I've been writing for a while. Let's just stop right there. But my short story, The Ever After, is in Sycorax's Daughters. And I'm just honored to be here tonight. I'm honored to have a piece of work in this wonderful collection with so many fabulous writers. So it's exciting to get here together and talk about this, because it's just such a wonderful collection filled with just, I'm amazed by every story that I've read. So it's fantastic.
Thank you. Rhonda Garcia might be in and out with us with us because she's going through the whole thing with the Texas weather. So she might be back in later and joining us. So Nicole, if you could tell us about yourself.
My name is Nicole Gibbons-Kurtz, and I am a publisher, editor, writer, and a recent recipient of the HWA's diversity grant. But I'm really excited to be a part of Sycorax's Daughters. I thank you, Linda, for reaching out to me, because writing can often seem like a lonely place. And just to be able to find that you are not the only one, not the unicorn, but there's this lovely family of Black women horror writers that you are now part of and that you're all connected to. That was really meaningful for me. I can't tell you guys what Sycorax's Daughters did for me, but it also allowed me to publish anthologies that were for Black women, right? If there was no Sycorax's Daughters, there'd be no Black magic women, there'd be no slay. And so when I tell you that this did a lot for me being a part of this project, I mean, we'll get into it later, but I'm probably going to gush a lot about how awesome it is tonight. My short story in here is a sci-fi horror story called Rise.
Thanks, Nicole. Linda, you know, as everybody's hearing, you're kind of like the glue that kind of helped to bring all of this together. So if you could speak on how this came about and just how it got started, how this happened.
I would love to, because I have talked about this in other ways, in other panels, when people talk about diversity in publishing. So as I said, Professor, Dr. Kenitra Brooks, a professor, however you want to call it, is the one who approached me. And I met her at a Stoker HWA event a few years ago, and she wanted to do this basically. But you know, she knew that I was in the field also of horror writing. And then another professor, Dr. Susanna Brooks, was also a co-editor. And so for me, finding who to do this is the interesting thing to me. Horror for Blacks in America is our everyday life, okay? The monsters are human and the struggle is real. So when I went looking, and I have a whole bookshelf behind here of 2 things of anthologies with Black writers in them, and they would not be looked at as horror, or maybe not even speculative necessarily. Because if you go to Essence Magazine, you go anywhere else, you're going to see our poetry and our stories And there's going to be this dark edge to it because that's our life. You know, you go out and that's how it is. People are getting with that Black Lives Matter situation going on. And so when we went to contact people, that was like sort of the thing. You know, I don't know if a white editor could have put this together, because I don't know if they would have looked in those venues that we looked in order to find all of you and the other almost 30 authors that are in the book. So that was such a wonderful journey to go on of discovery. And I say it took a year because we did have, you know, to go and reach out. It wasn't like someone saying, you know, other editors in the genre may say, I want to do a unicorn anthology, and then, you know, put out a call and everybody sends unicorn stories in. Now that will happen because you all are out there writing and publishing your own work, and not just you, but lots of others. Like I said, I got a whole pile of books here from the daughters, and this ain't even all of them. So the greatest pleasure was being able to reach out into the Black creative community in areas that people wouldn't necessarily have thought of. And I will tell you my own personal joy of this, besides seeing this big old thing, is, I wanted to shout out to Roshan Perry, the publisher, Cedar Grove Publishing, because again, what this ended up being is all Black women, right? He's a Black woman publisher, the editors and all the writers, the poets, the authors. So this is what was an interesting thing for me. The year that this went on to the final ballot for the Horror Writers Association, Bram Stoker, before I found out it was on there, I found out that I was going to be given the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Horror Writers Association. And it felt odd. It felt like an odd fit to me. I mean, let's forget that I'm the first Black, let's forget that I'm the first poet, let's forget all that. It just felt like, have I done enough besides my own work? Then I found out the Sycorax's daughters made the final ballot. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'll take it. So, you know, it was a personal meaning for me, because for so long I was the only Black anything in any category with a Stoker for many years. And then right now, I think we're up to 18, you know, different people, Blacks who have received the Bram Stoker. So that makes me so joyful. So with this, brought 33 authors, I believe it is, who can now put on their resume finalists for the Bram Stoker. And that just made me feel, you don't even know. I'm like, okay, whatever I do from now on is gravy, because this is good.
And you know, that really speaks to just, you know, once again, the importance of this anthology, because what a lot of people might not understand is that for a lot of new writers, an anthology is often a way to kind of break in, you know, to be able to say, oh, I've been in this anthology and look who I was in this anthology with. And you have this credit and you have this amazing, you know, work that's been done, you know. So, you know, not only is it a matter of being able to say, hey, we were in a finalist anthology, but you could be a brand new writer able to say that. And that's really something. And that kind of leads into my next question about pretty much how this brought us all together, because we're all across the country. And we were saying right before this started about how we had signings all over the country, and so many of us have not actually met each other in person yet. And it's like being a member of this club where, you know, we haven't met all the members. But at the same time, you know, we can all say that we support one another, that we look out for, amp up each other's works, you know, really just hype each other up. And, you know, there's something really special about knowing that you have this kind of collective out there that's doing this. And I see that Rhonda has joined us. Hi, welcome back. Rhonda, if you could just quickly tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, so I'm Rhonda. I write as RJ Joseph, and I do the horror stuff. I write creatively and academically about the horror genre. So it's all about the horror.
Well, you know what, Rhonda, that's a good kind of segue into my next question, is the fact that we write horror. And I'm sure that all of us at one point or some point, many points, when we've said, you know, well, what do you write? And you're like, horror. Yeah, I write horror. What type of reactions have you gotten? How do you feel about, first being a horror writer? Because we'll circle back and talk about what it's like to be a Black woman writing horror. So let's first talk about, what is it about horror that makes it so exciting as a genre to write?
It's freeing. Writing horror allows me to be free with my decision making, with my story. I can be as violent or not. I can be as gross or revengeful or angry, or whatever I want to be, without reproach, because it's horror. It's under this banner. It's going to be grotesque. It's going to be horrifying. It's going to be terrifying. And so it allows me to have a lot more creative freedom than some of the other genres that I play in.
I think it's authentic. I think that, for me, it speaks. I write psychological horror, so it's quiet a lot of times, but that doesn't make it any less frightening. It's just not, there is gore, but it's not, blood on the floor every 5 seconds. It's not some violent act, but at the same time, I can show how my mind might twist a scenario and not feel as though I'm doing this, I'm adding it, inserting it into something it shouldn't be in. This is how I see it, so I'm going to write it that way. And whether it's quiet or loud doesn't matter, because that's my perception of it, which makes it, authentic.
How about you, Tish?
I was thinking about that. I love to write horror because it is my own personal courtroom. I get to dispense justice as I please. I get to take things from everyday life and I put them on the page, and I wreak the vengeance that I am not seeing in real life. And so I guess I'm a little bent in that I like to see the blood and the guts. I want that bad guy to get it, but sometimes it's interesting to make who you think is the good guy turn into the bad guy, and then they get to do the nefarious things. So I look at it as an opportunity to, balance the scales of justice, because I don't get to see that often in real life.
And for Linda, I know for you also, because you write poetry as well. So, what's that like for you in terms of horror and how that feels to write it?
Well, I think to reflect some of what's already been said, I go to my authentic shadow self when I'm writing. I also feel very much that I'm inspired by the injustice I see around me. I am inspired by the mean things that humans do. And I've been asked, about the theme of my writing. And I usually just say, you got to leave that to the readers, because I don't think out my work. It comes very organically from my reactions to the world around me. However, I suspect that if you looked at a lot of it, I don't have victims in mind. I have people who are victimized, but they don't end up in the end as victims, okay? So even in the poetry, so there's a lot worked out there emotionally for me, to be able to go to that very, as has been said, that very dark, almost vengeful place of anger, and just like let it come through, and then shape it in an entertaining way that will draw the reader in and give them some kind of journey through the emotions there. And I'm also consider myself a psychological writer more so, although, there's been blood, there's been guts.
I love how you said that. There's been blood.
There's been blood.
Saying,
That was a little casual, Linda.
I can be casual. I know most people don't think that's true, but I can.
But you know what, hearing what everybody's saying though, it kind of makes me think about something you said earlier, Linda, about the Black experience kind of informing things, whether it's conscious or not. You know, that so much of our lives has been marked by horror, so much of our history has been marked by horror. You know, how do you feel, you know, that might influence your work? And then also, you know, you can speak to just being a Black woman writing horror. How does that inform your work?
All right, yeah.
I went first last
All
time.
right, don't make me have to be like a
I went
teacher in
first
class.
last time.
Oh,
So.
Nicole.
I can do that. Everybody trying to be too nice.
Looking in the back of the class like, hey, Nicole, you.
Like I just went first last time. So I write weird, most of my horror stuff, most of it is, I write weird Westerns, and most of my weird Westerns skew in the realm of horror. And the reason for that is I, of course, fell in love with the Southwest when I lived out there. And I grew up, my mom was a big Western fan. So what I long to do is discuss the other people in the West, Buffalo soldiers, former slaves, women who had lived East and on the way over lost their husbands and found themselves in this very harsh reality without the trappings of, you know, cultured society back East in Native Americans, right? And so a lot of my weird Westerns are horror, and they explore those other peoples in the West and how they were able to try to make a life in this very harsh environment. So one of the things that I'm influenced by is telling those stories, because those stories didn't get told. And so I like telling weird Western stories about the other people in the West. And as a Black woman, how many times have the stories about our greatness, about things we've overcome, about things we've invented, about things that we do, been swept under the proverbial rug of history and ignored or lost? And so I just feel most of my horror that I write tends to skew that way towards telling those other stories. The other horror stories I write are about being poor and Black in East Tennessee, which in and of itself is a horrible thing. And so I write stories about growing up in housing projects in a city that is grossly prejudiced. And so I have lots of stories like that are trappings from my childhood, like Dogwood stories about the Dogwood Arts Festival in Knoxville. And there are just all kinds of things like that. There is Southern horror, but not Southern Gothic horror in the way you would think of it, because they're all urban Southern stories. So,
you know, you ask a really interesting question, because when I've been asked that question before about how do I feel as a Black woman writing horror stories, it's not an easy one to answer, because I write from my experience, my life, my psychological horror. Like I said, it's not blood on the ground all the time, but I twist, you know, just daily life, normal daily experiences into things that can be very frightening, but they're coming from my perspective. So my perspective is of a Black woman because I'm a Black woman. So my life and what I might put on the page reflects what I have seen and lived and done and, you know, witnessed. So the perspective in and of itself may not necessarily be of a Black protagonist per se, but this Black woman's writing whatever protagonist is on that page. So therefore it's going to be skewed based upon my vision. So my stories are frightening, and they're all different. I mean, I've written vampire tales, which I like vampires, but I don't write them a lot, but I definitely like them. But vampires, I've written zombies, which I don't care for as much. I've written, you know, I love ghosts and supernatural, but a lot of it, if not all of it, you know, indeed all of it, is coming from the perspective of what I know about faith, what I am going about to twist and change and turn upside down about faith, you know, what I'm going to say about this ghost or this zombie or this monster, whatever it is. But the perspective, the vision, and the view is all coming from this Black woman's lens. So the question is not easy to answer. I mean, Nicole's answer was I wish I could give an answer like that. It's just not the same. It's not the same perspective, but that I think is also the beauty of how we can all come to this from different angles, because none of us are going to say the same thing here. And none of us have been reacted to in the same way. Because, you know, I might write a male protagonist and he may be raceless, if you will, like no discernible race. But then the next one is a Black female. It doesn't matter to me. That's not really the goal. The goal is what I'm about to put them through, if you will. And I sort of relish that experience of the flexibility that my genre, my subgenre brings to the table there, and that I personally as an author am willing to accept.
I think the thing that's so important is that one of the great things about getting Sycorax's Daughters out is that for people to read it and understand, there is no Black voice in horror.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There's no one voice. That what we have are authors and horror writers who happen to be Black, who happen to be women. I really, if I could clone myself, I would do Sycorax's sons, but I don't have time, folks. I'm sorry. But, you know, somebody's got to do that. Somebody else will do it. But, you know, for me, I have a very similar concept in the sense that I like looking at the world as a worldview. So whenever I sit down to write something, be it a story or a poem, and now I'm finishing my first novel, I'm always curious. I am so curious about humans, even the worst of us. Like how, you know, even if I can't understand how crazy you can be, one of my favorite characters was a psychotic. I did all this research on psychotics and I was like, holy mackerel. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I did a vampire story where the vampire hunter was from China. The vampire was from Africa. There was an American Indian. I'm just curious about people. Mm-hmm. And so, but when I write, I like to look at it like, how can I include a more world view of people? And as has been said, but I'm writing as a Black woman. When I've mentored people, I mentored an incredible Black woman, young poet here in Tucson. And we had a discussion about the fact that she doesn't have to sit down and think about the fact that she's a Black poet or Black woman poet. Mm-hmm. That her work coming through every second of the life that she's lived on this planet is going to say what needs to be said. It's not something in my mind that I would teach someone to try to be conscious of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So well, I think for me, first of all, I haven't always been an out in public horror writer. I grew up in the South. I'm still here, Southern Baptist. We don't speak of these things, right? I don't know if you all are familiar with what happens here in the South, but there is the supernatural surrounds us, but you can't speak of it. No, we don't speak of it. And so I was this weird little kid that always understood that just because things were happy-go-lucky on the surface, just right underneath, the monsters were right there. I have always had this ability to take the most common occurrence, the safest place you can think of. You're in the church house. Yeah, man, you're not so safe in that church house though, right? And so I think that what had to happen was I had to go to grad school. And that was a part of my not only writer's journey, but it was also a part of my just self-discovery journey. That when I got there and I talked to these other people, I went in and my thesis project is a romance novel. I love romance. I do write romance sometimes, right? But I hung out with and was drawn to the horror writers. And they kept asking me, are you sure that you're a romance writer? Are you sure you're not a horror writer? And so, you know, it was their embracing of that. Like there was no question. They didn't kind of say, well, that's weird. You look like this, you know, drill team cheer soccer mom. And like, really, you really write horror? There was none of that. They just totally accepted it. And so once I gained that acceptance, I mean, I hit the ground running. And so I do tend to focus on the experiences of Black women because I am a Black woman. And man, I just think that some parts of our existence is quite horrific. It can be joyous, but there's so much horror. And so I feel like it's kind of my duty in life to shine a spotlight on those experiences, to not just lend them validity, but to also tell the stories. Like just to tell, I didn't get these kind of stories when I was growing up. You know, it took forever before I was able to access like a Tananarive Due or a Toni Morrison, because I'm an old, I am. And so, I mean, I grew up predominantly with Stephen King, Dean Koontz, John Saul. I mean, great, amazing writers, but they're all white guys. And so when I wanted to see something different, I mean, I just almost like burst into tears when Tananarive Due came on the scene. I was like, oh my God, I just devoured everything she had. And I'm going, oh, we can do this. And there's Toni Morrison. She's always been here, really. And she's a part of the club too. So I think that it's really has been important to me, just as my journey as a person who has all this closeted horror stuff and just never really felt comfortable bringing it out to light.
Well, I have to piggyback on that because I grew up in the West, but it was still one of those things where not necessarily horror, but there were so many things that you could not talk about as a woman. And so you're not allowed to, you know, if there is a family member you don't like, you don't have the option to not kiss Uncle George when he comes by all drunk and sloppy, right? Or whatever the issue may be. We as Black women growing up the way that we have, we were not allowed to speak up. And I think that has a lot to do with some of the traumas that we experience. And so I have found in my writing that I let loose my Black women. And so they get a chance to express all of those feelings that we have had to suppress for so long. So she gets to, you know, gut her cheating boyfriend, and, you know, she gets to mutilate the boss who is not treating her right, or, you know, whatever the situation is. And I like to think of it as a warning. So when people say you write horror, I give them the sinister smile and I say, yes, I do. So before you approach me any old kind of way, I need you to remember that, because that is what lurks underneath this, you know, nice, sweet, giggly, laughy person. Yeah, I will gut you. I need you to know that. So I like to think of my writing as that calling card to people that I tell that to, so they know how to treat me, so that other Black women can see, yeah, you don't have to be silent, because here's this lady gutting him. Maybe you don't have to gut them, but you can speak up for yourself. So
yeah, or you can even just eat him. Yeah, just eat him. You don't even have to gut him. Just eat him up.
Oh my God! Now
just eat him.
Just eat him. Yeah. Vote for that.
I thought I will gut you was good, but just eat him is all.
Just eat him.
I like
It went from 0
that.
to 1,000.
Right?
I totally love the gut thing, because, you know, before you guys got to show up in the room and I was a lot by myself, I had the reputation saying, I will friggin' cut you. I'm using the friggin'. And, you know, I always say it with a laugh, you know, that's right. Yeah, I will, because, you know, you need to put that space out there. So if there's anyone who actually you could cut, they might actually back off and go in another room. And I'm okay with that. I don't
They're taking their chances. You know, I know for me, it was like the very first short story I wrote. I don't know if you know this, Linda. The very first short story I wrote is the one that made it into Dark Dreams.
No, I didn't.
Congratulations! Wow.
And Dark Dreams was the first anthology period of Black horror writers. And I was so tickled to be in there with you, Linda, Tananarive, L.A. Banks. I was like, I'm in an anthology with L.A. Banks. I didn't know what to do with my life. So, you know, it was just like, horror wasn't necessarily something I set out to write, but somehow it became what I wrote. And it just felt right. And the stories, you know, that I created, just, I don't know how they became horror, but they were. So I was like, well, you know what? I guess I'm a horror writer then. It's almost like you have to accept it, embrace it, the fact that you're, you know, I write horror. Okay, fine. Okay, I'm good with that. And And just like you were saying, I think, there's a common thread here of almost like channeling, either anger or just like that rage or just like that everyday you might have as a Black woman in America is going into your writing.
Oh yeah.
That's
happening.
Yeah.
That's happening.
Yeah. So, we're gonna be like, Tish out here about to cut somebody, but
no,
it's going into
gut, and I'll use cut because gut is cool. You use gut. I will cut you.
We'll gut you. We'll gut you. And Rhonda said she will eat them.
Right. So when we're done cutting and gutting, we're gonna send that over to Ron.
Yeah.
I think Nicole and I are just gonna stand here going,
let's do this. Okay.
Okay, so everybody gonna have to pick something they would do. But not
I have hot sauce. We're great. It's just like a fire and hot sauce, and we're good.
oh my gosh.
For the eating.
Oh my God. But you know what? I think, we have such a deep well to draw from for our stories. They're just, whether we're from the West, whether we're from the South, the Midwest, Northeast, all over, there's still that common thread, these common threads that we have as, Black people, as a culture that creep into our work. It creeps into our work. It's there. And, the thing is, I think, Nicole, you were saying it about those untold stories. There's so many untold stories. And for all the stories that we told so far, guess what? There's still more to tell. And to me, that is so exciting. So exciting.
And here's something else I wanted to bring out about this anthology that I've spoken to in interviews and on panels. That in order for the publishing industry to introduce people to more diverse voices, the gatekeepers also have to be changed, right?
Yeah.
Because there are stories in here, incredible stories in here, that I don't know if someone who's only read Stephen King in their ear would understand that that's a great story because of the language, because of the music is different. And I am starting to see those changes in the field, because I think that a lot of people watching the horror field are like, you know what? No, we're not accepting the fact that you just decided to put out an anthology and it's all men, or all white men, or all this. And I'm very happy to see that happening. That's how change is done, by calling people out of their laziness or in a virtual racism. I don't care what you call it. It's like work a little harder and get it together.
Yep. I mean, it's 2021. Like, why are we still having this conversation?
Oh my God, that's not.
It's like, why are we still talking about this?
Because it's going to take 10 generations of people to leave this planet and reincarnate before we have a real, true human race across the board. So
ridiculous.
It's so different. Even now compared to, for instance, when Dark Dreams came out back in 2004. Back then we were writing, but there were still even fewer of us out there doing it, and doing it at a certain level, so to speak. And you really did kind of feel like out there just doing it.
For that Dark Matter, which
Renee Thomas did,
she's in the anthology, and she is now like the first blah 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 editor of magazine. But, even when she came out, that was the very first anthology putting together speculative Black writers, not just horror, obviously.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And also, when we're talking about speculative fiction, one of the things I talk about is how, there isn't this clear divide in a way in terms of speculative fiction. That horror crosses into it and they kind of flow back and forth. And I see that so much with Black writers of color, just kind of like flowing back and forth between, just kind of mixing the genres up and in this really kind of incredible way. And, sometimes I wonder if it's because, we've just been kind of doing our own thing that's almost like creating your own thing.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
I'll say
sure.
that genres are a construct, right? I mean, that's not, if you think about the 1800s, it wasn't called horror fiction then. It was, I just lost it all. Just Gothic fiction.
It was called Gothic fiction, yeah.
Gothic encompasses a lot of things, including romance, frankly.
Right.
Yeah.
It does.
I mean, if you think about it from the standpoint of nothing is set in stone in that way, that Frankenstein can both be one of the premier horror novels, but also one of the best science fiction novels ever.
Yeah.
It's just not a real, it's like there's a line that really doesn't exist. I mean, sure, we may very well use different characters, different bad guys, different whatever, and some stuff is set in space. But I mean, honestly, tell me that Aliens wasn't a horror movie.
It's completely a horror movie.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So the cross.
That's how I think of it.
Yes.
The whole big deal that's made between this is horror and this is science fiction and this is fantasy, etc. All these distinctions, they're just not real. These are lines that don't actually exist. And I think that what is beautiful about what's happened in the past, I mean, I hate to say 20 years and act like I've been here to watch it, but I have. But so in the past 20 years, in the past 20 years, I can't, sometimes it's coming out of my mouth and I'm like, really? Oh my gosh. But all right. Just
Meant to be is what's coming out of your mouth.
I guess so. The thing is, we've seen Black authors come in and say, this is what I write. Stop trying to categorize it. If you must categorize it, go ahead. But me, I'm just going to keep writing cross-genre stuff.
And
Just
that's
like-
what I've always done. By the way,
Mhm.
you know what? Because I've made this reputation in horror, but that wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make a reputation in horror. I
Right.
just always wrote and still whatever I write, and then people
Mhm.
put tags on it. And when I got, no one knew I was a Black writer until I got into Dark Dreams in 2000. I was published. I had my credits to get an active SF, Science Fiction Writers of America, when that book came out. I had an editor call me and was like, oh my God, I didn't know you were Black. And I was like, yo, dude.
Wow.
You're almost supposed to say, hey, it's still not okay to say that on the phone. I mean, really.
2000, and we had talked before, so it wasn't like he called me out of blue. And you know,
Right.
I try to be graceful. I was like, and he couldn't see my face because we were on the phone. I was like, really? But I'm like, call me what you want, just buy my book. That's all I'm
Right.
at. You can
Just
call
yeah.
me
At the end of the day,
buy my book.
just
I always kind of figure if you like the story
Right.
and you're really enjoying it, what does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
What does it
you
matter?
know, I definitely think that
Great awakening for people to see this panel, to
Mhm.
see Sycorax, to see the books that you guys,
Hey, there's the realm.
you know,
Look at this way.
you know,
Slay.
they're like, oh my God, these books are Black. That's right. I got a whole stack of
Oh, that's Cherie's book.
Oh,
Nine Daughters,
Cherie's
yeah.
book, yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Therese is beyond. I'm just saying.
I just want to say
Yes.
this
You are amazing. I mean, Slay, come on now.
Yeah.
The anthology of Blacks writing vampires. I was on a panel
Yeah.
the other day at some convention, and I was like, oh, somebody was talking about nothing new, and I was like, you know what's new? Slay, because
Thank you.
because I read it. It's Blacks writing vampires. Anytime you get some other
Mhm.
culture group writing something, no matter how accepted it is, you're going to get a new twist on it, and it's
Oh,
going to be
yes.
you're going to be like, oh.
And the stories
well-
in Slave, they're very distinctly centered on Blackness.
They
And
are.
in a
really
variety of situations and errors. It was fantastic. And I think that just gave the dying vampire, no pun intended, new life. Right?
I'm saying.
So,
But it goes back to that whole thing of, drawing from that well.
yeah.
When you've got these
Mhm.
untold stories out there, it means that the ones that we become familiar with become reinvented.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Reinvented, I
And
know
what
I was tickled to be in Slay. I wrote something totally different for me.
And I loved it. It is one of my favorites too. I absolutely loved it. It was just so, man, I don't even have words, and I should, because I write for a living. But But her story
Well,
was just great. It really was.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
that's
that
the
there's
joy.
a little bit of freedom in having to navigate like all those hurdles, right? Because it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do, but not just that. It's that we've had this whole like lifetime of observing. So like I know that there was a conversation about, well, can Black people really write other kinds of characters? And I'm like, well, of course we can. We've always had to. We've always had to observe other cultures and other characters. So we've always been in the watch your see. Of course, watch me. I'm a pro. Let me show you.
Is that even a question?
That
Right.
really is
It's
it.
a
Well,
price
because
scale.
Yeah.
and the reason why it
Question.
came up in this certain conversation was because there was the idea of own voices, right? And so it's like, so then Black people should be writing anything but Black people. Well, but see, that's kind of not what I'm talking about. What I mean
That's an
is,
assumption that people make, you know, when I
Yeah.
also have been on this planet a while. And so, so in the, let me see, when would that be? The 60s? Yeah, in the 60s when I was writing weird stuff and it was all Angela Davis Black Power and people were like, why are you writing this, Linda? You should be writing Black Power, Angela. And I was like, because my brain don't work like that.
right.
Right.
That's not my job. My job is to write this stuff. So that's
And
what I'm gonna write.
Right. And
I
I
just
think
figure I'm gonna write what I write, and you know, everybody else is either gonna like it or they're not. It's really that simple.
I mean,
Right, and well, the fact is, you can't. I mean, I think that as writers in general, we often, especially when you're in the beginning and you're trying to sell, regardless of race, you're trying to sell. You want to be popular, whatever. So you write what the market seems to be dictating, right? And then, I mean, when I did it, I felt terrible. My writing wasn't nearly as good as
Yes.
it is.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. But I'm saying I write better writing what I like to write.
yes.
What the
Yeah.
market.
I never wrote to market. I really just, I was like, screw it.
Thank you very
I
much.
love it, Linda. That's right.
But I mean, so when we talk about own voices, it's not
Yeah.
about Black people should write Black people and, you know, Asian people should write Asian people. And that's not what that's not it. It's a matter of, you don't seem to hear us unless we're talking about something that you can now herald, if you will, right? Because it's popular to cheer about this now,
Right.
but we can write this and 20 other things as well. Don't put us in a box is what I think.
In fact, let me tell you, when I first started writing science fiction, my dream was to get into Asimov's Science Fiction magazine. That's all I wanted to do, live and learn that. I mean, I lived for that. And I'd gone to a workshop long time ago. I went to a workshop Nancy Kress was teaching. And I told Nancy, I said, I'm thinking about changing my pen name to L.D. Addison, because you know, if I send a story in, and there were very few women writing science fiction other than her at that time. Now everybody's, but anyway, I said, and because I don't want them to assume that the character I'm writing, if they see my name's Linda Scream, and you know what? You know what Nancy Kress said to me? She said, well, if you write it good enough, Linda, then they're gonna, I was like, oh, what? Okay. Oh, they're right. Okay. She was like, if you write it good enough, then you shouldn't have to change your name. I was like, oh, okay, you just threw that down.
Right. That was a comment.
You know what?
Alan.
I learned how to write well, and I'm still learning. I'm always learning to write better.
Yes.
But
that's the thing though. Like I'm really old enough that's why I write under RJ Joseph. Well, it's one of the reasons. I can't say it's the only reason. It's the main reason. I never wanted somebody to see my name first and go like the readers in the bookstore. I mean, I have heard readers say all kinds of stuff while I'm in the horror section. Really? Oh, chicks can't write horror, and oh no, and not this and not that. And so I am from that, I guess, I don't know, generation, I guess, if you will, that felt like if your first introduction is these initials, and then you catch this smoke and decide you like it, you kind of don't get to back up when you find out I'm a Black chick. So, you know, and
I don't have a problem with anyone using a pen name. I just want to say that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
I know for me, mine is really simple. It's a clear division between my author self and my academic self.
Right.
So,
I'm glad I
really
did
clear
that.
I want those lines separate.
Yeah.
Well, and writing romance too is like, I didn't want romance readers to pick up just really hardcore hard stuff.
Right.
Like, you're the same person. That's just wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I don't.
How does
think
that
so,
coexist,
so,
right?
Yeah. So
very,
It's quite the happily ever after.
Exactly. They be like, "You terrific."
I'm glad
It's a very common thing for people to separate either their audiences or their lives. And
Yeah.
that's
Right.
why I wanted to say, I'm not saying everyone's got to do it my way. I'm just
Right.
saying, Nancy Kress slapped me in the face with that gauntlet.
Oh,
Like,
she did. She really did.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's
I'm glad
interesting
you
that
did it your way, Linda. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you did it
Yeah,
your
me
way,
too.
girl, because
I'm
that's
glad
why
you
we able
guys
to do
wanted
what
to
That's
do
why
it.
we're able to do it our way.
I mean, I can honestly tell you, Linda dragged me kicking and screaming back into writing. I had stopped after Dark Dreams, the first 3 anthologies, I stopped writing for 10 years. And yeah, I know, right? Linda and Kenitra were both like, Luana, we really want to see, I put my government name out there for you.
Yeah.
We want you to be in this anthology we're working on. And I was like, okay.
Because we saw your work before. I mean, like I said, when we went for our names. We went, we didn't just pick names out of a hat and we didn't know. We went back through all these old things, looking at people. We were like,
But I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so glad to be seriously back. And
Yes.
look at the panel.
Yes.
But as I was saying earlier, we're part of this group, and it's so exciting to see everybody kind of branching out, doing their own things, having really fantastic things happening, often as a result of having been in this, in this anthology. Thank you for that, Linda.
Yes, thank you.
And
Yes.
I'll also say that Linda also was the one who I was actually a HWA member 50 million years ago when first got into the Dark Dreams, and she was like, Luana, I think that you should go ahead and renew. Go ahead and renew now. And I was like, okay.
There's a lot of women in Sycorax's daughters that are HWA members.
Yes. And that's one of the things I wanted to say, is that I do encourage other Black writers to go ahead and join HWA and be a part of it, be involved if you can, because having more of us and having more of a presence is a good thing. If you want to affect change, you have to be able to be a part of it first.
And I want to mention that there are many levels of entry for a membership. That's not just one level. So, go look it up, because things change by being in the mix.
And I want to throw this out there. We definitely would benefit from more people on the voting. I can't think of the word, but we need more people who are tasked with finding new work, submitting it, and then sending it into the panel to vote for the Bram Stoker every year. I think this is supposed to be a secret, but I was on a jury at one point. And I found that
it's not a secret, I don't think, to be on a jury.
Oh, I remember they were saying, like, don't tell anyone so you don't get solicited. And I'm like, is it really that serious? Okay, I won't tell.
Yes.
Right? I didn't want to get in trouble and tell people, but years ago, whenever that was, I just found that the stuff that I liked, nobody else was picking. So I was like,
what has made the difference now, if you look at it, because every year the things that are put on the recommendation list, there's levels to it: recommendation, preliminary ballot, then the final ballot, and then the winners. So everything that goes on the recommendation list is then put on a public facing page on the horror.org site, where you don't have to be a member, and it's called the reading list. So I want to see more stuff on that reading list, and each year it gets to be a little bit more. Things that people would not necessarily go for. The same thing with the Sears table that I'm involved in on newsletter that comes out every month. It's not a thing of saying, here's somebody you should vote for a Stoker. I mean, if you do, that's all good. But I'm just saying, the point of the Stairs Table column is to say, here's somebody you might not have read in a diverse world and give it a try. So yeah, we need as many. And in another organization, the Science Fiction, Fantasy, Poetry Association, I hope I'm saying this right, the SFPA, who gave me that beautiful award, is another one that I would like to see Black poets and other poets get involved in, because that one, again, the cost is not that high. Get in there.
Okay.
I'm in there too, Linda.
Of the groups, right? And when you're in a group that is an association that's part of what you do in your life, I mean, you've dedicated all this time towards your writing. So being part of a group like that, where it's a collection or a culmination of people who are doing the same things you are, it's just, it doesn't only change the makeup of the association, but it also enriches you. I mean, I've been in HWA for years, but now I'm a mentor in HWA as well. And just being able to help the people I've helped, I'm so excited about it. But being able to help the people that I've helped, you know, just because I've been there is invaluable. And it helps enrich me as a writer, you know, and I've been able to share knowledge that I knew it, but you know, you don't really think about what you know until you have to tell somebody else or teach somebody else about it. And so if we're talking about just being a woman and teaching someone, wow, right? And being a woman in this specific horror genre and teaching someone, wow. You know, and so there are all these moments where you have the opportunity to influence someone in terms of whether or not they may go out and say, hey, what she said was interesting. Let me see if I can find similar themes in other books. And these other books might very well be from other Black writers. And that's not something I said, hey, go pick up here's 10 Black writers to read. I didn't do any of that, but they may decide that they want to experience it because of what we've discussed. And so, but at the same time, you're also enriched. I mean, I met Linda, I don't know when you and I met. I know when we met in person, but we met early in my career. We were in something very early, because I remember, like, it's 1998 or 7. I got it upstairs. And then after that, I don't remember why we had a conversation, but there was a point where you and I were like right near each other all the time for something. And then we spoke years and years ago. So, but, and I say, Linda, there have been several people throughout my career, and white, Black, that's not the point right now. It's about the connections that I've made purely by existing in the HWA. Sometimes you feel like you're paying the dues and you don't get anything for it. No, you get tons for it.
Can I just say my favorite thing in the whole wide world? Oh my gosh, I have to get it framed and put on my wall one day. Is that picture when I got the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, I love it.
And we were all in the soiree room, you know, with the drinking and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna need. You only get what you ask for. You nobody get it. Right? I said, I'm gonna need all the brown people over here.
Yep, I remember that.
Yes. Because I was like, I'm gonna need a picture. And when we did the Wakanda thing,
yes, I've seen it.
And then I was like, okay, we don't want to scare nobody. I'm just
right, we couldn't stay together.
Hey, everybody, you know what? We have a not to disrupt the flow, but you know, we have about 5 minutes or so where we can take some questions from the audience if they want to go ahead and put it in chat. Anybody have any questions for us? We'll try to answer it. Try being the operative word here. From Catherine, she would love to know what we all are reading and loving right now.
I just started Coyote Songs by Gabino Iglesias.
Oh my gosh, me too. Me
You
too.
did? Really?
I can't wait to read it. Yes.
I have gotten one chapter through and I'm like, okay.
I need every human in this country to read that book.
I am looking forward to it. It's like I have it and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
It's so good. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I'm reading, Lisa, I'm so sorry. So like, you know, when the power went out, I've had this book of hers that I just been dying to get to. And I hate that I had to put it down. When I say I will read anything that this woman put out, I am so digging it, but it's not like, it hasn't been released just yet. Right? But you know, I got questions. You know, I got questions. So
I know you do.
I am loving it.
I'm so glad you are. So let me just say, full disclosure, she didn't tell me she had started. She just
no, I did not. But girl, the lights were out, and I was like, "But my iPad is charged, even though I can't get on the internet. I got this book downloaded. I'm starting this right now." So
fantastic.
Yeah, so after reading, because I am researching a lot of Western stuff, I also bought Nicole, your book that you so graciously put out there. I'm like, how in the world has this existed? And I really didn't know. So okay, so it's on deck because I've been researching Black people in the Old West. So yeah, so that's next on deck. But yes, I am loving this book. Lisa, oh, you know I got questions.
I'm just saying the name. She's trying her best not to say the name. I'm gonna say the name.
Yeah.
The Realm 2, which is part 2 to that book that Linda was holding up.
Oh my God! I'm so ready for number 2.
Yes, it'll be out in October.
I'm ready for book 2.
It is, if possible, it is, believe it or not, it's actually better than the first one. I didn't think that was possible.
Told you it was though, remember?
But it is. You did tell me. You told me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's number 1. That's the Realm 1. Thank you, Linda. Oh, she's still
Oh yes.
Oh,
that's on my Kindle. That's on my Kindle.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, that was on my Kindle.
I just finished this. It's kind of friggin' awesome. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and it's Brian Keene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks freaking.
And I just started this.
Demonstrate. Who's the author on that? I can't see it.
Brian Theo Wara, who's the president of SPA.
Oh, nice.
He has a newer one I read already, but then I got this one. I was like, oh, yes. Certain spirits are sour as mango with, oh yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions from the audience. So what I'll ask everyone is to, let everyone know how they can find you.
AddisonPoet.com.
Y'all can find me lurking on Twitter.
Yep.
I promise I do exist. I'm there a lot. I read way more than I post, but I'm there. You can find me there. I'm there.
I know you there.
Yeah. I'm there under my government name though, Rhonda J. Garcia. So kind of hide a little bit.
That is so, I want to make a comment real quick, if I can, about the pen names, because Elmarie Wood is a pen name, but it's actually my name, right? So I just figured I don't know how to navigate signings if I don't say at least, and I'm putting my picture on the book, I'm putting my picture. So I didn't understand how, I just didn't know what to do with it. So I've always just done my actual name. Oh, well, you can find me at elmariewood.com.
You can find me at NicoleGibbons-Kurtz.net.
I am at jacksonpress.net, and I'm also on Twitter when I'm being social media minded.
And you can find me at lhmorecreative.com. I'm on Twitter at LHM, and I'm on Instagram at LHmore. And I would really like to thank everyone for coming out and joining us tonight. And I would like to thank my fellow panelists and Sycorax sisters for joining me and having such a great conversation. Let's just hope we're not going to go out and get the cutting and gutting and something like that to that effect.
You gotta keep on the page.
But stuff happens.
It does.
It does.
Okay.
That was awesome.
You need to cut this. I ain't trying to cut nobody.
But if you have to.
Call us. We'll help you.
Right? Oh my God. And this
together.
Right? Right.
Oh
So
my.
here's to hoping we do get to meet up in Denver, what is
Yes.
it, 2022 now?
2022.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 And
That
there is
will be
a virtual.
fantastic.
There's still going to be virtual. So
Fingers crossed, guys.
this year there'll be a
Okay.
Stoker Cup.
Yeah.
Love you all, and all of the rest of the sisters out there that couldn't fit in this little window. All 30.
Oh,
Yes.
this is for Nicole.
Oh.
Number 85. I think it's Revlon. Just
Okay. I was like, I want
That's
that
right,
lipstick.
lipstick tip.
Um,
I don't know what the
Okay,
black
so
what the
she's
black color is
right.
called. I'm sure somebody out there is like, I know.
Right?
I know the fancy colors.
I'm like, nope, I need that color.
It is called
yes,
for
people
those
put
of
white,
us.
white on.
Awesome.
That's right, Kimberly. Go right.
Need you, Kimberly.
Seriously, I'm inspired to write now after you all.
I got
Seriously.
nothing to do but right after this. Honestly, I'm on a writing maniac kick right now. So
Awesome.
Oh, good.
It's good
Good.
though.
We should do an anthology called Gut. What is it? Cut, Gut.
Cut and gut. Oh my God.
Good, good. And
gut,
was a
gut,
good,
and eat.
good,
Love
You know that one book, Pray, Love, and whatever.
Honestly, I would write blood for
Pray,
that. I
love,
would write,
Pray, love, and
Lisa
gut.
said, Lisa
I
said
would
she'd
write-
write blood for that one.
I would write blood for that. I would.
Somebody's
There's
gonna
nothing psychological
us
about
'cause we
cutting
are
and
out of
gutting somebody.
control
So
now.
Oh, oh
We are out
God.
of
Yeah.
control.
And this is why we write hard.
Right?
Cut, gut,
That's
eat.
right. That is right, Dickies. That's how we
Absolutely.
do
Thank
our
you.
work.
It was cut, gut, eat.
Yes.
Thank you
I
very
like it.
much.
I like that.
Oh, look, John Lawson saying, pray, love, and guts. 10 out of 10 would read.
Catherine said she would buy that.
oh my
All
God.
right, all of you that got publishing companies, Nicole and all the rest of you. get together.
We're looking at you. We're looking at you, Nicole.
Make it happen.
I mean, we did just publish Slice Girl, so I'm pretty sure we can do that too.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
gotta be a play.
sure.
Love it.
Oh my God. That's the title.
I mean, if it's slay,
Right?
Yeah.
that
That's
cut
such a
the
great cover. I love that cover.
covers
Yes.
and one
Yes.
thing.
I read
Fro.
that cover. The fro,
Yeah.
yeah. Taylor did
Yes.
That cover. Yep.
That was it.
No one's gonna
Love it.
stop us. We're just gonna do this all night. What's happening?
No one's gonna
We're
cut
just
us off.
talking about.
Leave us to our own devices.
Right?
They're just gonna let us
Don't
keep
you
going.
know?
Y'all are not helping me. I got writing to do tonight. Not much rather than sitting here being
Oh.
silly.
I have deadlines, but they're gonna have to wait because I have like horrible tendonitis.
Ooh.
I actually
Oh.
sat down. I bought like 3 little notebooks because I was like, I'm actually going to plan for once.
Yeah.
I don't know who I am. Not even letting those
Know how that
words
works
come
out.
out of my mouth.
I can't. I want to. I just sit
I
down
keep
and-
trying and
It's not
like
there.
I need to because this pantsing thing is not gonna work for anything longer form for me. And I get all distracted and everywhere else but like doing what I'm supposed to do. So see,
Yeah.
See,
look
you
at
need a
it.
board. Or do a board. You can do a board. Yep. with sticky
Every
notes.
postie is a chapter from this book that I should have finished already. I'm just saying.
I'm a
I'm trying to be like you when I
pantser
grow
all
up,
the way.
Linda.
I don't even have a storyline on a piece of paper. I just go. I can't. Once I write it out, I can't.
I've been trying to do that and I just get sidetracked and distracted and all over the place. And that's why I don't have a novel now.
Well, I mean, I wrote this by the seat of my pants, by the way, darlings. This is only after I wrote the first draft. Now I can outline it.
Works?
That might be me. That might have to be me. I just bang it out like that cat in that gift.
That's it. You know, I just did this so I can figure out what I got to tighten up and what I got to loosen up. But I literally sat down each chapter and was like, I don't know what's happening. Then the next day, I don't know what's happening. Then the next day, oh damn, this is awesome.
Yeah, I let myself get
Being
surprised.
surprised like the reader would be too. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Right? I just put a link in about this convention. I'm going to be reading.
Oh, I'll be there too. Yep.
What is it again?
Virtue, Wisconsin.
Oh, heard of that.
I'll be there as well.
Awesome. That's been one of the really cool things that's happened with this whole staying at home thing. There have been so many events that we could watch or stream.
Oh, yeah.
Even participate in, because I would never have flown to all these places. So that's
Right.
I mean, it's not like that.
Massive is gonna be on YouTube later on for people to watch, and they're gonna be like,
Oh, that's great.
what was that number lipstick again?
785. It's in the chat.
785.
It's in the chat. 785.
785.
There'll be one.
That's the that's the title of the anthology. 785.
785.
Oh my, I just got that chill. You know, I get this chill when it tells me it's just right. Just right.
All right.
I like it.
Everybody take a different lipstick color.
Right?
Right. And then the
Ooh.
subtext.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
I like that.
Oh,
hey, I
okay.
think I could do that.
Nicole, we're looking at you again. I want you to see, I'm looking at
Everybody's
you.
writing project
Looking at
tonight.
you.
Yes.
I might need a minute to finish this one I'm working on, though, folk. But after that,
Just a hot minute, girl.
They really are going to let us keep going, aren't they?
I think they are.
They are. But look, like we acting like we have a problem with that or something.
No.
They're right up.
We're here making anthology.
We're like, we don't have
creating
to,
work
we
right
up
now.
We're
We don't have
working
anything
right
to
now.
do. We just gonna sit here and chat.
Just sit here and chat. We don't get to see each other, so that works.
Love it.
I saw Catherine just now.
what
No,
did
it's nice to be able to get together like this.
It is.
No, it is.
Things I have appreciated. You know,
Just
It
sit here
is.
shooting the breeze.
yeah.
Well,
Couldn't
it's
fall
well,
I
there's
just love everything everyone said. I love being here. Like I said, you all
Yes.
make me just feel, I'm so joyful and happy with everything everyone's doing here. And like I said, all the sisterhood, there's so
Yeah.
many that are doing
Oh, yeah.
stuff, either
That's-
writing
Mhm.
and or
That's true.
involved in organizing conventions and conferences.
Mhm.
Make
Yes.
It's been a lot, you know, doesn't seem like it was that long ago, you know, but you realize now this was 4 years ago, technically like 5, if you want to consider the fact that we kind
Yeah.
of started before it actually came out.
Right,
You
right.
know,
Right.
it's been 5 years
Mhm.
since we all did this. So a lot has happened in 5 years.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
I mean,
so
2020 was 17 years, so yeah.
That was like
It's
a
been a
century
minute.
by
Really?
itself.
In and of itself, right?
Oh my God.
Oh, that was like the lost year.
and
Years. It went on forever. I was like, oh my
Oh.
God.
It's like it's like we're just like in it. It's like we're in 2020 B.
Yeah.
Seriously.
God.
Yes.
You know something? I was just listening to Parable of the Sower.
Mm.
I'm sorry, is she clairvoyant? Was she
You
clairvoyant?
know,
Oh man.
know,
Probably.
right?
The amazing Octavia Butler.
Yes,
Lord.
probably.
Like,
You know what? I read an interview with her because I just finished a piece that'll be coming out. I wrote about her. So I wanted to hear her voice and her words about her work. And someone asked her, are you writing the future? Are you predicting? And she says, she said, I do not want to predict this future.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want this to be. I'm writing what I don't want to be, but
well, she wrote what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't get to that degree, but every time I was listening to it, I listened to that like when I listen to Audible books when I'm trying to relax and like I'll do a puzzle or something really like chill. And I was listening and I was very stressed out because I'm like, wait a minute, wait, no.
Wait.
so
Close to
someone
home.
asked a
Oh, real
question
quick.
about how to
This might be a question for you. I'm going to say this. There's 2 L's here, so I got to say your name, Lisa. Either writer's asking, how do I get a mentor?
Oh, okay. If you have to email at HWA, I think it might be mentor at HWA. I think that's right. Or mentor at horror.org, but I'm going to check it. I'll look. I'll answer that in a minute.
But no, you're right. I mean, why would we want that type of future? But you know, that's the role that we play as writers, is asking those what if questions. You know, we ask what if and then we answer.
Yeah,
Yep.
John put up the email to send if you want a mentor towards through HWA, and you send an email to this email address he put up, and just put down what kind of writing you do and so forth.
Right.
Oh, did you put it already, Linda? Thank you.
No,
John got it.
did.
Oh,
John
thank
put
you,
it there.
John.
John is on it.
I was
President. Yes.
just out of curiosity, was I
Yes,
right?
that's our president.
was right about
Yeah, she's like, was I right? Yes, Lisa, you're right.
Very cool.
Oh my God. he wants to move
Oh
in.
my goodness.
I know
If you bring some food, maybe.
What other people-
Only if you love teenagers. I
but
have a
also
whole
panel
like
with Jane Yolen at
trough of
Buzzard.
If, right. If you're moving in, you got to bring food.
yeah, I have a whole trough of kids, teenagers. I don't know if you get in where you fit in. Come on.
That's amazing.
I like cupcakes, sweet
Yeah.
tea.
And just to bring it back to something that we were talking about, people that ask about how do you write, like what's it like to write horror fiction? They don't see this side of us, or this is the side they know, and they can't anticipate the scary part that we can just, they don't see that we're the same person.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm always like, why are you scared now that you know that's what I do? I mean, what?
Right.
I'm about to laugh at the same joke. I'm about to say something real corny because that's who I am.
Right.
And I'm gonna write something scary. Like, it's the same thing.
But you know what? I love that fact, though. I love the fact that there are folks who write horror that when you're looking at them, you would never think, you know, totally unassuming, maybe even sweet looking. They're the ones up there, like, got the darkest, like most twisted. Like, I don't know where this is coming from.
It's the quiet ones. It's the quiet ones.
Right? Always quiet ones. Always. And but you know, I love that idea that, you know, it's those ones that are totally unassuming. They're the main ones that you're like, oh.
You know that was in you. That well was deep, wasn't it?
And you know what else?
That's so interesting. Go ahead, Tish.
I was going to say, Lisa, you were talking about how listening to the parable was giving you current 2020 vibes. And I have been wondering if it was just me this past year thinking like, okay, this is the beginning of so many horror novels that I've read.
Yeah.
When do I start literally like stocking up on machetes? I have one.
I
but
have
do
a machete in my bedroom right now.
Yes, I have one. And
I have one in my bedroom
joking.
closet. I'm ready.
Right. But I'm actually not joking. Like,
That's so y'all know out there.
do we
y'all
need to
know.
be ready right now?
I know who you're talking to. Miss
Girl, you gotta stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Okay.
I want land.
That's true.
I want to buy some land with a big fence so I can use my machetes on interlopers. That's where I'm at right
ready
now.
to get my 2x4s to board my house up. So, you know, when the zombies come.
Yeah.
Somebody let me know.
Seriously, right?
Real.
These are important facts that you know
Yes.
we should all know.
For sure.
You know, I had that book, How to Recognize the Demons Become Your Friend.
Yep.
And it's poetry and short stories. And when I go selling it in person, I would, you know, somebody would walk away. And if I thought they had a kind of sense of humor or something, or maybe I didn't really care, I would just say to them, oh, okay, you're going to leave without buying this? That's fine, you know, but this is instructional and entertaining. And you know how many of them come back and buy it?
So when you got
Stay ready. Catherine said, "Stay ready."
Right?
read and watch enough horror, you're gonna be ready.
No, you
So,
do.
Recognize
You know, like, wait,
Ready.
okay, you know, what is that sound? I am not going to investigate because I'm going to be a
No.
final girl.
Thank you.
I'm not going to look.
Thank you.
I'm going to be a final girl. I'm not going to investigate. I've watched enough horror to know. I've read enough
That
horror
Buster
to
will
know.
come find me and get chopped up when he comes.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm
Oh,
laying here
God.
waiting ready. I'm
You
laying
don't
here
have-
waiting
you don't have
ready.
to tell me twice.
A lot of the work in Sycorax's daughters, when we sat down after we got them all in and we knew we were putting them together, we were putting the table of contents together, me and Kenitra and Susanna were like, wow, there's a whole lot of different sort of themes that were similar across the poems and stories. But you know what was not similar? You know what was in there? Some powerful women dealing with some crap and staying chilly, staying ready. I was like,
Yeah.
That's the truth.
But you know, that man, it kind of makes me wonder too, you know, goes back to that whole thing of being a Black woman. We always had to stay ready.
Thank
You
you.
know,
We
hasn't changed.
always had to be
Mhm.
prepared, not knowing what was about to happen next, be on guard. That's our history speaking right there.
That's our
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
That's our
Exactly.
Yeah. That's our lives.
That is my life.
now.
That
That
my
is
life.
now. I mean,
And I just think that's I mean, I grew up, I was raised by a strong Black woman. I grew up and became what my mother made me. I didn't, you can't just walk around as though you don't know people could be following you. You can't
no,
walk
what
around
people,
like
it was
it
not an
always
option.
surprises
It
me
was
that
not an
people
option.
do.
You're
Yeah.
walking down an alley in the dark, like, what's the matter with you? I mean, like, these are common sense things that I was raised with, right? So I write the lived experience, but for me, the lived experience is this person has common sense. So we're not going to be, there is a zombie in the street. I'm not going up to it to see if it's
I'm
real.
on this way.
I'm
No.
going the other way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a check off completely. 'Cause
Oh.
we're gonna
I
fight. We're not
remember
gonna sit here.
when Get Out came out,
Mhm.
and when my man got
Oh.
out the car to go check on
Oh.
that deer, the first thing
Yeah.
I thought was,
Don't do it.
Are you
what are you
crazy?
Get
doing?
back in the car. What are you doing?
Right then and there, I'm like, the deer's dead. Go.
Let's go.
Oh no.
Like, I'm not getting out of the car at nighttime in the middle of nowhere to find out. I don't need to.
I don't
It's
see
okay.
nothing. I don't know nothing. I'm
Right.
keeping
Blinders.
Well, I think that was one of the first inclinations I had, that Chris, I think his name was, that
Yes.
Chris had a different lived experience than I did.
Yeah.
And I just, I was like, man, bro, if you in the hood and you see something
Yes.
going down, you
You
keep
don't
it
see.
pushing.
Look, you don't
keep
see
it
nothing.
pushing.
You don't
Right.
know nothing.
You keep it
We'll
moving.
talk about
Keep it
we'll talk
moving.
about it later, but right
You
now
keep it
it's just
moving.
gonna keep driving. We're gonna keep
Raising a
pushing.
housing project.
I
You
love
don't
the whole
see
thing
anything.
about-
You don't know anything. You just
Exactly.
keep
And
going.
I love the
We
whole
don't
thing about
know
how
not
it's like,
one
if you
thing.
see somebody run, you go ahead and
Run
run with
too.
them, and you
That's
ask
what I'm
later.
saying.
You
find
ask
out
later.
after the fact.
Thank you.
I'm running later.
I'm running with you. And then when we're safe, then I can ask, what was that
Why
about?
are we running?
Yeah, we'll
Later.
dissect it
That's
later.
right.
It's like you learn to have a radar that tells you
Yeah.
your life might be in danger. You also learn, one of the things I learned from my mother, because she was a quiet church going woman, but she had not,
Yes.
woe be to you if you decide to get in the way of one of her children. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
hey then.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
You calling God and everybody else in it, and it's not
Oh
going to
yes.
happen.
Yeah,
And
you want to
so
see some cutting good.
what
From
I-
Black mom.
what I got from her is that when I go into certain, I've been out here in the world for like 40 years or something in conventions and groups. And sometimes if I go in, my special power is that if I see somebody and I get a certain like energy from them that's not going to be right. And like I said, I ain't trying to cut nobody. Just don't get in my way. Then you
Yeah.
might get cut. But you know what I'm saying? So I have this energy like, and it's like my church mama talking to me going,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll go over here now. Cause you
Yeah.
know what?
You just know.
Something ain't right.
You just
Yeah.
know.
Right? I don't
Like, you
mind
just
being
stay right
rude.
there. I'm gonna be over here.
Right. I don't mind being
Right.
rude by walking away.
Right.
So,
That
and
you
maybe
stay
I
over
wonder
there.
If that's the perspective we're coming to our characters with, not
Oh, yeah.
necessarily that they're, so much that because I don't know, maybe some of you write Black characters all the time, but I don't write anything all the time, right? So,
No, I don't write
But-
anything all the time.
but each of my characters has a sense of common sense and fight or flight. I don't know, just
Yes.
self-awareness and self-protection. We're not
Yeah.
gonna stand here.
Self-preservation.
Thank you, there's the word.
Yeah.
We're not going to
That's- yeah.
stand here and let something happen to us. We are going to get out of the way and figure out what we have to do next, but we're not going to stand there and be hit with some car because we don't understand why it's driving erratically, whatever. It's not going to happen. So I wonder sometimes if that's the difference between the writing. Is it not necessarily ethnic, Black, whatever you want to call it, whatever label is put on it? It's more life experience and perspective.
And
Oh,
comfort.
sure.
And
Oh, yeah.
No, I agree with that.
That's the only
I
thing
can see that.
that's the only thing we can write from is our own
Own life experience.
experience.
No,
Because
and
even-
it's not monolithic, but there
Mhm.
are things that are universal about being growing up at Black and female in America.
Sure.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
sure.
and again, I consider myself an organic writer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we
Uh-oh.
just lost her.
Very rarely
Uh-oh.
plot out anything. Or, but I'm looking at it. My geez. Now that I think back,
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I think
There we go.
I'm losing my
he's
Wi-Fi.
back now. Yeah,
It's gone.
we didn't hear anything you
Ooh,
just said.
okay. I know. If somebody else is frozen, then it's me. When I look back now on the characters that I put into this novel, and they're Black and they're all kinds of other different things,
Mm-hmm.
they're very much in touch with their emotion, their fear, their what they want. Now, how that uncovers itself and unwinds in the story, you know, is different for each character. You know, I'm not going to say I've never written a clueless character, but if I did write someone clueless in a poem or a story, it is always part of their journey of becoming clueful.
I like it, clueful.
Clueful.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that kind of really speaks to sort of, and again, it is not a monolithic Black experience, but I mean, there are some similarities to always being aware of your race, of always being aware of your displayed gender, of always being aware of what your potential weaknesses are, if you're exposed, right? And I think that, and I really like playing around with those things, because I don't know that a lot of people think the things that are scary to me, that they actually think they're horror. That's another conversation that's happening, right? In horror, what's actual horror? Is Get Out really horror? Or is it just social commentary? Well, why couldn't it be both? Because my life is a walking social commentary.
Yeah.
That's horrifying to me. That whole right. I think we talked, was it me and you, Lisa, talked about this before, about horror is what makes us, what we're afraid of, right? Makes us scared. And so that bar or that umbrella has many, many subgenres underneath it, because there are many things that make us scared, right?
Exactly.
And it's not always the same.
Right. And
it's not
that's been on over the years with everybody else. Okay, our Zoom may end at 8:30. So
John,
refresh, you're on.
We're like, I don't know where you're going, but
can't stay here.
Definition of horror they use is that it invokes a sense of fear and unsettlingness.
So Get Out is obviously invoking fear and unsettling for me.
Yeah.
And every single Black person I've ever spoken to who's seen that movie.
Oh,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Oh, of course.
Well, you know,
or unsettling.
Well, you gotta think about things like Lovecraft Country. To me, the scariest part of Lovecraft Country was that very first episode, the Sundown Town one.
Has nothing to do with
the
monsters.
moment that she was in that diner, was like, we got to get the hell up out of here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, that I've got to that point now with visual horror that I'm almost unfazed now.
Right.
But that had me like pacing back and forth.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
Pacing back and forth like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And
gritting my teeth, holding my breath. Are they gonna make it? Are they gonna make it across that line?
Right, yes.
Y'all, that is for
so
real.
Scary.
Yeah.
That is for real.
That than the monsters.
There are towns close to here that are sundown towns, and I'm thinking, oh, you don't get caught there after dark. Y'all better hurry up. You better put the pedal to the metal.
2021.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The idea that's the idea, right? That what human beings do is truly monstrous, and what they're capable of is horrendous. And it's much more terrifying of real human beings than I've ever been of monsters. Or the idea of monsters.
I used to tell people I'm not scared of ghosts. I'm scared of real folks.
Yeah, I'm scared of the live folks. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can I throw this out there? Do you guys remember the episode of Lovecraft Country when Ingenue was in that alternate world and she chose to go back at the end for her daughter?
Yes.
For me,
that is episode 7. That's episode 7. I am.
Because she told her, Courtney B. Vance, who's, I don't remember their real names, but she had to shoot herself to be his wife.
Yes.
Oh, that's a horror story.
Yeah.
Yes. I felt that in my spirit, honey. Do
you
I was all in my feelings.
I felt that in my spirit.
Every Black woman has had to experience and either submit to or get away from.
Yes.
I think a lot of people overlook that, but as Black women, we see that.
Yes, we feel that. We live that. Yeah.
That was
Linda,
A
powerful.
whole bunch of blogs on Lovecraft Country, which I
she
hope-
did it for the root, right?
Yes,
It's the Negro's Guide.
Sure did.
Penny, Dr. Brooks did a whole series. And I was
Yes.
just at BosCon. I actually put that, I was on the panel for Lovecraft Country, and I actually linked back to Kenitra's articles because they were so insightful.
They
really
were so,
They
she's
really
always
were.
an insightful writer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. She did a brilliant job. I love
Yeah,
it.
those posts
I
were
would watch
fantastic.
it. I would watch the episode and then I'd wait till Tuesday for Kenitra to upload it.
Yes. Oh, there's her book.
There's her
Yes.
Yes.
I
Oh
love
my
it.
gosh. I don't know
Thank you,
how I
Nidra.
was doing research without that book. Like before that book came
They
out, I
should,
don't know how I
John.
was
You're
doing
right.
my academic research. I was
Yep.
digging and picking. She wrote that book and I was like, thank you, my sister. I'm always
Yes.
quoting it, referring to it, citing from
It's
it.
a
I
good
mean,
book.
it is such
Yes.
it is something that we needed.
She's so brilliant.
You
We
know, like
did.
if you're going to be an academic or you're gonna approach horror from an academic standpoint and talk about Black women, we need to look towards her. In fact, it was her that showed me that I could actually be a horror Black academic, right? I
Love
didn't
that.
even know that was such a thing. I kind of fell accidentally into it. It was a big old hole, and I was like, oh, but it was mostly because of her. Like I'd seen horror academics before, like especially at Seton Hill, where I did my MFA. Dr. Mike Arnzen is a wonderful horror academic. But of course, I'm thinking, but that's Dr. Mike, that's Dr. Arnzen. He can do whatever he want to do, right? He's brilliant. He can do what he wants to do. But when I met her, when I met Dr. Brooks, I was like, oh, wait, I'm feeling something. Like Linda said, you get this. I was like, wait a minute, you mean I could kind of talk about this like this?
Academically, yeah. No,
You
she's
mean I
brilliant.
can talk about Black women in horror?
Yeah.
Academically, like I can really like make a job, or I can really have a job doing that when I grow up
and teaching
Well,
it.
right?
Yeah.
That's so amazing to me, Rhonda, because it's like you and writing academic horror, academic nonfiction about women is just hand in hand. To me,
It
that
would-
you've always been
Thank
that.
you. I didn't even, it was one of those things that and when I was in grad school, of course, your professors are honed into like different things about their students, right? I had not just Dr. Arnzen, but Dr. Nicole Peeler. She said to me, I'd written something nonfiction about romance. She said, you should write more nonfiction about genre writing. And of course I was like, girl, I'm just trying to get out of here. I'm just trying to get this degree. I'm not even trying to hear what you're talking about. But then I realized,
God, that's what grad school is like.
yes, I was like, and so then I sent in an abstract for like the International Vampire and Arts and Film Fest that one year. And Doc Arnzen was one of the people who were curating the essays. He was so instrumental in helping me to get it like kind of toned, kind of tightened up. And then I felt like, you know what? This is what I was supposed to do. This is the thing that I was meant to do, but it took all of them, because before that I was like, I don't even know what y'all talking about. I'm not trying to do that, but I do have a knack for it, and I enjoy it so much. But had I not met her in 2013, I think that was when I first met Linda too. Had I not met them and just like soaked in their fabulosity and their awesomeness, I don't know that I would actually be doing it. Even though, I mean, it's something that I tell my students all the time, y'all, I fell into this hole. There was a big old hole right here where when you sit up and when you search the academic databases for Black women in horror, the only thing that comes up is Dr. Brooks's, one of her essays about zombies or something, right? And I thought, okay, so that means that I can be instrumental in helping to develop this scholarship. Me? I can really do that?
Yeah.
And I had to totally embrace it. Now that I've embraced it, I'm like, ooh, baby, we gonna keep on pushing. We gonna ride this till the wheels fall off.
Pedal to the meadow. I love it.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this because Rhonda doesn't know this, but she's instrumental in me writing academic fiction. That's not about Black women necessarily, but it's about the genre.
Yes.
I don't love it like she does, right? No. But, but I've done it like because we met in person at that the IVF, what do you call it?
Yes.
International Vampire Festival a couple
Uh-huh.
years back.
Yes.
And you presented there. Now we had known each other already, right?
Yes,
But in person,
yes.
that was our first.
That was in person.
It was either our first in person or our second, because it was close proximity. Because we were like, I can't believe you're here, and that was
exactly. I know. Go all the way to London. Go all the way to London to meet somebody, right?
Right. Always. And she presented, and I remember sitting there because I was up for this award, the Golden Steak Award, which I happened to win that year.
Yes, you did.
That's what. Yeah, that was awesome. That was so awesome. Oh my God. The thing is a steak. It's like a real steak, like a steak. It's fantastic.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So, I love that thing. But so I was listening to her, and I was sitting there like, that's really interesting. And I'm like, well, I'm never writing anything like that. And I kept listening, like, well, maybe.
Yeah,
I wrote my first one. And I submitted it to them, and I presented this year. And I was like, this is like, so yeah, you inspired me to do it. That's crazy that you said that. I figured, let me just tell you the truth now. I mean, I just
oh, that is so wonderful. I mean, I'm really known for telling people, and I'm sure that at least two of y'all have heard me say, we got to help each other.
Oh yeah,
we have to do that. Like we got us, and it's not until I see like a Linda. I mean, I went to lunch with her, Kenitra, that was 2013 at the World Horror Con when it was still. I was so fangirl, and I was sitting there going, I can't believe I'm sitting here next to Linda Addison. I mean, I'm sitting there going, ooh, I don't want to drop my fork. I don't want to eat too fast. I don't want to eat too slow. I want to hear everything she's saying. Oh, I was in so much awe.
So adorable. I love it. I'm never gonna forget that. Because we were all talking about, because Kenitra was interviewing, she was really just like, we got to get some information about Black women in horror, blah, 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 blah. And this one was like,
I was like, I can't wait to go tell my sister I had lunch with the horror poet Linda Addison. Of course, my sister is like, horror poetry is a thing. I said, girl, Linda done made it a thing.
I made science fiction poetry a thing. I got into Asimov's finally science fiction poetry. I was like, yeah, I can live with that.
Right, oh, I was so fangirl, and I went back to my room and I went Googling both of them. I was like, what? Oh, and they do this? And oh my gosh, if I'd have known that before we went to lunch, I'd have really fell out my chair into a puddle. They would have had to soak me up with a sponge. Because what I did know was enough. And I can really appreciate that one thing about Linda. I'm sure we all have our Linda stories, but Linda has been one of the biggest cheerleaders. Like one year she saw that I put my works up for for consideration for Stoker. She said, I'm so glad that you did that. She was like, you have to be in the game to play the game, something like that. And I was like, ooh, leave it to that Linda. And when
Linda convinced me to be in the HWA anthology. Was it 2 years ago now?
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know why.
Yes.
I'm writing an essay about my years as a ghost hunter.
My God.
Yes.
Yeah.
My God. You don't know. I got so many I've gotten so much from people about your essay.
Really?
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Linda keeps us pumped up and so authentically. Like my thing is, she's just doing it like I'm paying it forward. I really, really do want to be like you when I grow up.
You already doing it.
I try really hard.
All of you are doing it.
I try hard to pay it forward, though, especially with my students.
And the ones who are not here are doing it too. So that's all.
Yes. I have students who write about Linda's work, and I'm like, that's what I'm talking about, because I'm going to introduce y'all to all of this stuff, right?
Good, right? I mean, but that's what we're supposed to do, though.
That's what we're supposed to do.
To be able to not only support those of us that we know but when we see somebody who's up and coming, when we see somebody who's new to this, and they really want to do this, then yeah, sure, we're gonna support you, we're gonna hype you, we're gonna retweet you, we're gonna let other folks know about your work.
I just say what you don't see and don't know until you go over at the gate where they got the book and they're telling you is the people whose lives you've touched, who you're never gonna know you've touched, because they see people watching this, people picking your book up, and then I didn't know Octavia Butler was Black until her second book, because the books didn't have pictures on them when I read it. I've been here a while, so you know, you don't know. You're never going to know that, but you've got to know it in your heart and keep doing the work that you all are doing, and everybody else out there, all the other Sycorax and sisters, keep doing it.
You know, it's funny that, you know, there's several stories. Everybody does have a Linda story, but it's the whole, well, I mean, I'm going to say this one thing because it touched me and I never forgot it. And every time I speak with her, it's in some way I'm reminded of just her generosity. I mean, honestly, because it's true. Because I wasn't writing when you reached out to me for Sycorax either. I wasn't. I know. She's like, that's
right. You on hiatus?
I wasn't writing on,
like I was.
I mean, I started a family. And I had little ones, and I write psychological horror. And because I'm a pantser, so my story comes out. It was revealing itself at moments that were just truly not right. When I have a baby, I'm not dealing with that. So I stopped writing on purpose. But I had on the side been putting these little ideas down for this one story that ended up in Sycorax's Daughters. But when Linda reached out to me, she says, yeah. And she was a random email. I was just like, Addison, what is
Linda is good for a random email.
She sure is, boy.
I knew she was, right, obviously.
And every time you say the same thing, like I say,
address.
Okay.
We had shared work before. And so, you know, our work was in stuff, but we had never spoke. And we spoke once. It was years ago. And I'm like, what is it? Is she emailing the right woman? I guess. I mean, are you talking to me? I mean, I'm just like, me, right? I mean, because I'm talking about. And then when she said it, I was like, well, shoot, I do have this one thing. I felt like, I can't believe this. This must be a prank. I really was like, this is
Me
like
too. Who is
bothering anybody?
Who is looking at it now?
And I just didn't mind your own business. It's like, oh,
but it's that thing that she has done to, you talk about pay it forward, and you talked earlier, Linda, about have I done enough? You've done more than anybody expected or hoped for. Yeah. And I try to emulate what you've done for me because I know what it did for me. It made me feel as though you don't have to keep waiting. Babies are getting old enough. Okay, you can go ahead and write.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? You're not writing.
And you all are doing it. You are all doing it. And the ones not even here are doing it. And that's really, that's it.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, I hope that you understand that you've inspired that in us. You know,
yes,
the giving spirit might very well have been there anyway. But I know how I felt when I realized you were not playing a game and you really were Linda Addison on that other end of that somehow. You actually remembered the anthology we were in, and I'm like, she's not playing games. I mean,
really full of them, folks. I got a whole full of them.
You know, so that kind of stuff is very important. And I don't know. I mean, I think in this community, just to bring it back to our conversation, in this community where we've been here, but we're just starting to be noticed because people realize we were here. I don't know. We've been doing it, but people are starting to notice that we do
like being on the edges.
That kind of lifting each other up and
coming in from the margins.
Anyone to be seen is really very important. And so people like you, Linda, are just, you know, you are the champions of, you know, our genre presence, and it's really really important.
I can tell you, I'm only doing also what has been done for me.
You know, nice.
Like Jack Ketchum, or Dallas as people call him. There are people like him, and there's a whole list of people who either often or even just one time. Peter Straub, talk to me about writing. Talk to me about it, like in a sense of the value that my writing has when I had no awards, when no one knew of me. And I just saw these people to spend the time. Tananarive Due, I've always said, you know, I thought she was going to be the first Black with a Stoker, because when I went to the awards that her book was up for, I was just like a horror babe on the arm of who turned out to be my second husband. I was just there, I was just there like, you know, because I was so when I met Tananarive, I really thought that she was going to be the first one, but she's doing all right for herself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did I freeze again?
All right, so I hate to break up the party, but I need to eat, and it's really late here, so I'm gonna go if that's okay.
It has been a pleasure.
I know, I'm gonna
Age
bring
right
out,
now.
bring out my books.
Aw.
Bring out my books.
Yes.
Been
Well,
wonderful.
John,
So
Catherine,
wonderful.
thank you all for so much for having us tonight. This has been so great and so much fun, and so much fun having all of us together like this. This is what happens when you get all of us together.
Seriously.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you
Really,
guys.
thank you.
Oh, there goes.
Thank you so much. I mean, she makes my point every time she does something crazy like that. I'm just saying.
Right.
Thank you all. I really appreciate this. This was a great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Been a
It was
No,
great
this has been so much
y'all.
fun. I want everybody to stay safe. Stay, keep yourself safe out there. And it's good seeing all of you. And this has been a great evening. See you all out in the world.
Hey.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, John.
Bye.
Bye, Catherine.